On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, a new report from Reuters says that Tesla has canceled its ultra-high volume $25,000 car in favor of going all in on the robotaxi. Could it possibly be true? Plus, Cybertruck will soon get a boost to its supercharging speed, the FSD subscription price gets cut in half, the Plaid Model S and X get sporty new seats, and more. What's happening, friends? I'm Ryan McCaffrey, joining you for episode 454, that's a palindrome, of Ride the Lightning, yes, your weekly Tesla unofficial podcast, this one publishing on April 14th, 2024. Well, it is great to be back home after a really nice getaway with my family, my wife and daughter. So grateful to have gotten to get away a little bit for spring break while she's off from school, take a little time away and just kind of do nothing. Well, actually, we did a lot, but nothing involving devices or no computers, no nothing. Just outdoors, sunshine, loved it, had a great time. Now, on the flight home, I watched Neil Brennan's new stand-up comedy special. If you're not familiar with Neil, he was Dave Chappelle's writing partner on The Chappelle Show, and Neil has gone on to have his own very decorated stand-up comedy career, including a few, this is the third or fourth major Netflix special from him, and I've really enjoyed his other ones. So his new one that just dropped is called Crazy Good. Now there's a bit in there about artists and geniuses, and while it's best to watch the entire special to get the full context for the bit, I wanted to play you this still very funny, even without context clip of Neil talking about Elon Musk and Tesla. I got a kick out of this, and I think you will too. Take a listen.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I realize that Neil is doing a bit there. There's probably some hyperbole involved, but I fully believe he probably really did laugh out loud at the joyous acceleration of the car, because I have done the same thing. The very first couple times I had a chance to be in a Tesla, the original Roadster, and then my cousin Pat's Model S P85, and then my own car, my Model 3 Performance when I got that, and then the chance when I had the chance to drive the Model S Plaid a couple years ago. You've probably had the same experience. You will just start cackling because it's that good. It just triggers some sort of joyous center of your brain, and you can't help but laugh. So I really got a kick out of that, and I think that clip might have to be the new outro for this podcast. It's just so perfect. I don't know if all of you listen all the way to the end, but I hide a little, I don't know if you'd call it an Easter egg at the very end, but there's like a little something extra at the end of every episode, and it's been the same thing for years, admittedly. I have not mixed it up. It might be time to mix it up. I think this might have to be the new outro for this thing. Anyway, let me get on to a huge run of good news before we get to the big topic this week, the headline topic, which is certainly not good news, and we'll just talk about, there's a lot to say. Let's talk about, we'll get to that. But first, this nice wave of good news story after good news story. We'll start here with a quick bit of good news for both current and obviously future Cybertruck owners. The first, and I suspect not the last, improvement to the supercharging speed, the supercharging curve, is coming soon. Tesla's powertrain guru and battery maestro Drew Baglino posted on X, quote, Cybertruck charge curve improvements are coming over the air later this quarter to unlock up to 154 miles recovered in 15 minutes. Now, for context, Tesla currently touts the 15-minute supercharging curve at 136 miles recovered on the Cybertruck. So this over-the-air update will deliver a very nice, very welcome 13% improvement, and all for free. Again, the end user doesn't have to pay anything, doesn't have to do anything. Sometimes I just like to remind myself of how abnormal this is in modern business, just modern corporate society and modern capitalism, I guess, for lack of a better. I know that's kind of like that word does different things for different people, but in just the current modern day society, we're not used to getting update after update, and I should specify improvement after improvement, completely free. Granted, you pay a lot of money for the car, don't get me wrong, we all know that, but free updates just keep coming for these cars, all 5 of them, and now the Cybertruck has a supercharging improvement on its way that'll bump the supercharging improvement by 13%. That is just all super fantastic. All right, another little good news appetizer to get us started this week. For what I believe will be the first time ever, the world's largest supercharger station, and by largest, I don't mean by square footage, although it may also be that too, but I'm specifically talking about the number of charging stalls. For the first time ever, the world's largest will reside outside of California. Eagle-eyed supercharger watcher Marco RP, who I've cited on plenty of other supercharger news bits like this before, and he's always been correct because he's digging up actual plans filed with municipalities, so he's not just making up rumors. These are just cool finds that he makes in the random filings of this stuff. So Marco RP has dug up plans for a new, what he calls, mega site. So he posted this on X, saying, quote, "The world's new largest supercharger is coming soon to Yeehaw Junction, Florida. Last month, Tesla filed plans to build a 200-stall mega site at exit 193 of the Florida Turnpike. The site will feature 160 stalls and 40 standalone stalls, 8 of which are for trailers. 200 stalls. 200. Imagine the power consumption if, say, like a TeslaCon Florida or some other big club event rolled through and filled them all up. That is just cool. That is a ton of cars pulling a lot of juice all at once, and it's just awesome to see. And I'm sure we will see the owners groups down in Florida specifically go out to fill all 200 stalls. Now, if, like me, you don't know Florida geography very well and are curious as to where specifically Yeehaw Junction is, I took a look on Google Maps, and it's basically in the middle of an obtuse triangle that you can draw between Tampa, Orlando, and West Palm Beach. And that's where, Yeehaw is kind of in there, in that triangular area. So no doubt getting a lot of traffic, or else Tesla wouldn't have bothered to make a 200-stall site there. Very cool stuff. We'll have to see once that's going to break ground and when it actually opens. Another quickie for you. FSD transfer has returned for a 3rd consecutive quarter. I saw this first via Tesla tipster Sawyer Merritt on X, who posted, quote, "Tesla is once again allowing free FSD transfers on new Model 3, Model Y, Model S, and Model X deliveries. FSD transfer is stackable with inventory adjustments and all other existing incentives. Trade-in of existing VIN with FSD is not required." So remember, what he's talking about there is, like last quarter, if you want to purchase another Tesla for your family, but just add one, not trading in one, if you want to become a 2 Tesla household and you want to move the FSD that you've already got paid for on your current Tesla over to a new one, you can do that and still hang on to that previous Tesla. Now, this reminds me, perhaps the single biggest unanswered question about Cybertruck at this point, obviously Cybertruck's not included in this because every Cybertruck being sold right now is being sold with FSD bundled in with it. But the biggest, in my opinion, still unanswered question about the Cybertruck is whether or not Tesla will honor the $7,000 FSD pre-order price for early reservation holders, before Tesla just removed the option to select FSD and select which trim of, which motor variant, single, dual, or tri, that you wanted as part of your reservation. I am of the optimistic opinion that Tesla will honor that $7,000 price for those early reservation holders, not only because it's the right thing to do, and Tesla has, in my humble opinion, generally more often than not done the right thing by its customers, but also because if you think about it, those same early reservation holders that have the $7,000 FSD pre-order price on their reservations, it will have been a full 5 years by the time general production starts and those people are able to order their trucks potentially with that $7,000 FSD on it. Again, I realize I am basing this off of my own prediction that general production of Cybertruck will begin in November or December for the 2025 model year. I could be wrong. It could be sooner. It could be later. I've talked about this on the podcast before, so I won't repeat myself, but that is, I'm basing this off of my own prediction here. We'll see if I end up remotely correct. But anyway, my point on this $7,000 FSD pre-order price for early Cybertruck reservation holders is that offering those folks a discount on FSD relative to today's $12,000 price is a way that Tesla can say thank you to those folks without it really costing the company anything. Since, as we know, there aren't any additional hardware costs with FSD. All the hardware is built into every car, no matter what, whether somebody orders FSD or not. In fact, I'd argue that Tesla would make more money by honoring these $7,000 FSD pre-orders for the early Cybertruck reservation holders than they would if they didn't honor it, because I have to figure that a lot of those early adopters, those early reservation holders, would pay the $7,000 but not the $12,000. And in fact, that's exactly how I feel about it. If I could pay $7,000, I would pay $7,000. I'm not paying $12,000. You've all heard my opinion on that. That's just personally a little too rich for my blood for what it is. But $7,000, yeah, I would do $7,000. And again, 5 years those people will have, many of you will have been holding onto your reservation, waiting for general production. That's a long time to have, maintained your trust, your faith in Tesla, and you've loaned them your $100 for that time. So it would be a nice gesture for them to say, you know what, yeah, 5 years, we'll go ahead and honor that $7,000 price for you. Speaking of FSD and a lower price on FSD, I have more good news to share. And that is this: the monthly FSD subscription price has been reduced to $99. Yes, $100 a month. So if you haven't already purchased FSD outright, you can go into your Tesla app right now and see this. You will see that it's down to $99 per month. And it is the second time that Elon has seemingly had to swallow his pride a little bit after previously telling all of us time and time again that the price of FSD would continue to go up as FSD progress advanced because it was going to turn all of our cars into appreciating assets. So first, obviously, we know that the price for the whole kit and caboodle was reduced from its high of $15,000 down to $12,000. And now the monthly option has been sliced in half from $199 per month to $99 per month. Now that is obviously a substantial price reduction. And to me, this is Tesla putting their money where their mouth is. They claim, Elon and the team say, hey, version 12 of FSD is good enough to warrant dropping the beta tag, and they've now backed up that confidence by sending out the free trial to everybody. And now they're doubling down on that by inviting all of those people that are going to get the free FSD trial, many of you have already received it, to continue subscribing after that 30-day trial has expired and subscribing for half the price that it was before. Now, of course, the business reality that's probably also true, it's not one or the other, it can be both, but the business reality that's probably also true is that the take rate at either the $12,000 or the $200 per month probably wasn't very high. And so now, if you subscribe rather than purchase, you'd have to keep your car for a full decade before buying it outright becomes the more economical option. And I was curious about this, so I Google searched, how long does the average American keep a new car? And unfortunately, it turned up a variety of results. I guess just depends on which study you read. So there's maybe not one true concrete answer here. I saw some that said 6 years, some that said 8, and a couple that said 12 and a half. But the point is, whether it's 6, 8, or 12 and a half, whatever the real average is for the amount of time that any of us tends to hang on to a new car, the $12,000 just might not make sense anymore unless you are absolutely planning on hanging onto that car for the long haul. And to be fair, modern Teslas are pretty well equipped to do that. Particularly and by modern, I'm really talking about the 3 forward. So 3Y, New S, New X, and Cybertruck. The original S, the original X are, those are not officially first generation products. The Roadster was the first generation product, but you all get what I'm saying. I think the modern Teslas, the Model 3 on forward, are very, very well equipped. And there have been a number of very high mileage Model 3s out there. We're starting to see the proof in the pudding on that. Anyway, the big question now is, will the price of the full kit and caboodle also come down from $12,000? I think that it should. I don't know if it will, but I think that it should. And in my opinion, it should also be cut in half, because let me explain why. So $6,000 is what I think it should go to match the 50% reduction that the monthly subscription option got. First of all, and maybe I'll do a Patreon poll on this next week, since I didn't have time to do it this week, all of this news about the FSD monthly price reduction happened just a couple of hours. It was a late Friday afternoon thing, just a couple hours before I sat down to record this episode. So even if I had put up a poll, probably wouldn't have gotten enough votes to get a good sample size here before I had to record. But anyway, I think the take rate would go way up between the $99 monthly option and the $6,000 all-in option. I know it's not some genius take of mine to be like, well, it would go way up. And be like, well, duh, Ryan, of course it's going to go up. But I do genuinely think it would go up substantially. For me personally, it would be a no-brainer. As I said a few minutes ago, I said I would do 7 on the Cybertruck. I would do 6 as well. 6 sounds good. But seriously, I would happily pay $6,000 on any and every future Tesla that I ever buy. $6,000 is, it's not an insignificant amount of money, but given that I use FSD, autopilot, and I use the driver assistance system in my car every single day, and I love it. It's not perfect. Again, it's evolving, but it's very worth $6,000 to me. And now second, in this hypothetical $6,000 FSD scenario, I think Tesla should just scrap enhanced autopilot. Again, because they've done it before. But if they lower FSD to 6, just get rid of enhanced autopilot. And let me tell you why. I don't think it would make a lot of sense as a $3,000 in-between option from the free basic autopilot that's included with every car to FSD at a hypothetical $6,000. I think you'd get people either just taking the free basic autopilot or jumping right to the $6,000 FSD. I think you could get rid of enhanced autopilot. Plus, enhanced autopilot runs on the legacy autopilot software stack, which Tesla probably doesn't want to have to support any more than it absolutely has to. They would rather have everybody on the FSD stack, which I have to think it might be tough to turn it on or off depending on what kind of road you're on, because the FSD stack is meant to just go everywhere, just drive your car anywhere. So I'm not saying it's technically impossible. I certainly can't speak to that. I'm not on the autopilot engineering team, but I think it would make sense if FSD got cut in half to 6K to just get rid of enhanced autopilot. Third, dare I say it would actually make more sense at $6,000 for FSD, not just for us customers, obviously, but I think it would make more sense for Tesla too. Let's say the take rate only, and I'm using air quotes here, but let's say the take rate only doubles if the price gets cut in half, meaning that it is financially a wash for Tesla. They're not making any more money. They cut the price in half. They're making the same amount of money as they were when it was $12,000. Well, even in that scenario, and to be clear, as I said a moment ago, I think the take rate would well more than double. I think Tesla would see a big return on this. But even if it didn't, it should still be seen as a win by Tesla because, why? More people would be using FSD, which Tesla touts as being much safer than human driving. And safety is at the core of the Tesla ethos. It's at the core of everything they do. They don't just talk the talk on this. They have walked the walk with all 5 cars that they have produced themselves. We're still waiting on official NHTSA or crash certification stuff on Cybertruck. But on the other 4, they're the 4 safest cars in the history of mankind. And so we know how seriously that Tesla takes safety. And so that's what I'm saying. It would be a win if they make the same amount of money as they did before, but twice as many people are using the autopilot, using the FSD software. In fact, that's even how Elon and the company, but really more so Elon, and again, I'm not trying to pick on him here, but it is fair to call out the fact that he has repeatedly said, and I've criticized it on this podcast before, he's repeatedly said that FSD is going to continue to go up and up and up in price because your cars are going to become appreciating assets that can make you money. And in reality, as I've said, I don't think that's happening anytime in the near future. So, how Elon can save face, if you will, in cutting the price of FSD in half after statement of saying it's just going to keep going up, Elon can simply say, we're so confident in this software, in FSD supervised version 12 or version 13, as we keep going. We are so confident in this that we want everyone to have it. And safety is at the core of our mission, and we want more people using this software. So that's why we've made the price adjustment that we've made. So that's all he's got to do. Besides, who's going to point and like Nelson from The Simpsons and go, ha ha, that he, no, everybody's going to be thrilled that he lowered the price. So nobody's going to have sour grapes over it. Everybody's going to be very excited that the price gets cut in half. So while I know that, yes, Tesla has an autopilot software team to pay the salaries of, there are, for all intents and purposes, no costs involved with FSD because all the hardware, again, goes in every car. The autopilot team does their thing every day and continues working on the software for whoever pays for it. So Tesla can, I think it's a reasonable to surmise, again, I don't have their financials in front of me, so I can't say for sure, but I think it's reasonable to suggest that Tesla can set the price of FSD at whatever it wants. I mean, it just did by cutting the monthly price in half from $200 a month to $100 a month. And so I absolutely applaud that move. 50% off down to $99. That's awesome. And I just think they should take it a step further by also cutting the FSD purchase price in half to $6,000. Forget about enhanced autopilot and let's go all in and in getting as many people on FSD as possible, either through the $99 subscription price or through a $6,000 all-in price. Please, I beg of the world out there, somebody on the next earnings call that's coming up very soon, please someone suggest this and or ask if the price of the full package is also going to get reduced in price. I gotta know the answer to this. All right, we've already been talking for a while, but there's still plenty to go. But before I get to that headline topic this week, I hope that all of you who are very kindly and generously supporting me here on the podcast through Patreon, I hope you enjoyed this week's lightning round mini episode, which I do every single week for the Patreon folks. This one was 7 reasons why Cybertruck is perfect for island life. I was on an island for the past week and again was so grateful to get to do that with my family. Had a great time and saw a lot of Teslas, actually a lot more than I expected to see. But I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I came up with 7 good reasons why the Cybertruck would be perfect if you live on an island. So if you are backing me on Patreon, number 1, thank you for your kindness and generosity. And number 2, I hope you enjoy that mini episode. And if you'd like to join the Patreon, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while now, you enjoy it, you get good information out of it, and you'd like to support me here, because it is a free podcast, I humbly request your Patreon support if you're willing and able to give it. You can head on over to my Patreon page, which is found at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast, Patreon spelled Patreon, and that $10 per month tier will get you not only all 91 of those lightning round mini episodes, plus the new ones each week, but you'll also get early access to each week's episode. And, well, for those of you already on Patreon with me, last week, episode 453, you got it 5 days early because I had to record it before I left on our family trip. So, again, head on over to my Patreon page. I'd be humbled and grateful if you would. It's, again, patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. Okay, let's get on with the potential megaton news story that happened, of course, while I was on vacation with my family, and that is the reported cancellation of the $25,000 Generation 3 car that we've been colloquially calling the Model 2, even though we know that's not going to be the real name of it. This story comes via Reuters, whose story is headlined as such: exclusive, Tesla scraps low-cost car plans amid fierce Chinese EV competition. Now, this is a long and very detailed piece that I'm not going to read all of to you, but I do want to read most of it because these details matter for the discussion to follow. So buckle up, here we go on this one. Reuters writes, Tesla has canceled the long-promised inexpensive car that investors have been counting on to drive its growth into a mass-market automaker, according to 3 sources familiar with the matter and company messages seen by Reuters. The automaker will continue developing self-driving robotaxis on the same small vehicle platform, the sources said. Elon Musk has repeatedly promised such a vehicle to investors and consumers. As recently as January, Musk told investors that Tesla planned to start production of the affordable model at its Texas factory in the second half of 2025, following an exclusive Reuters report detailing those plans. Tesla's cheapest current model, the Model 3 sedan, retails for about $39,000 in the United States. The now defunct entry-level vehicle, sometimes described as the Model 2, was expected to start at about $25,000. Tesla did not respond to requests for comment. After the story was published, Musk posted on his social media site X that, quote, Reuters is lying, parentheses, again. He did not identify any specific inaccuracies. The stark reversal comes as Tesla faces fierce competition globally from Chinese electric vehicle makers flooding the market with cars priced as low as $10,000. The plan for driverless robotaxis, which could take longer to deliver, presents a stiffer engineering challenge and more regulatory risk. Two sources said they learned of Tesla's decision to scrap the Model 2 in a meeting attended by scores of employees, with one of them saying the gathering happened in late February. Quote, Elon's directive is to go all in on robotaxi, that person said. The third source confirmed the cancellation and said new plans call for robotaxis to be produced, but in much lower volumes than had been projected for the Model 2. Several company messages reviewed by Reuters about the decision included one from March 1st from an unnamed program manager for the affordable car discussing the project's demise with engineering staff and advising them to hold off on telling suppliers, quote, about program cancellation, end quote. A fourth person with knowledge of Tesla's plans expressed optimism about the decision to pivot away from the cheap car strategy in favor of robotaxis, a segment Musk has envisioned as the future of mobility. The source cautioned that Tesla's product plans could change again based on economic conditions. Tesla called the affordable car project NV91 internally and H422 externally when discussing it with suppliers, according to two of the sources and company messages reviewed by Reuters. Messages from the unnamed Tesla program manager to staffers reference those code names in discussing the project's termination. One of those messages, sent March 1st, said that, quote, suppliers should halt all further activities related to H422/NV91, end quote. The sources said they did not know all the reasons behind the decision to kill the project. In another March 1st message, the manager thanked engineering staffers for their efforts and urged them to document what they had learned. Quote, I'd like to thank everyone for all your hard work and dedication to pushing boundaries and executing the best design possible given the aggressive constraints we had to work within, the message said. Continuing, quote, we would not want all our hard work to go to waste, so it's important that we tie things off and document things properly, end quote. The messages showed meetings on the affordable car project being canceled. The two sources said some engineers have been reassigned. And that's all of the Reuters report. It's most of it. That's all I wanted to read for you. So first of all, I will say that I am baffled as both a fan and a long-term shareholder if this is true. Personally speaking, my wife was very interested in this car. All she wants is a small Tesla. In fact, that's all she's ever wanted since she got on board with my Tesla journey some years back after I got my car and she started to see, oh, okay, this is actually pretty cool. I guess now I might have to buy her an original Roadster now, since that's the smallest car that Tesla has made or will make for the foreseeable future. And sadly, I'm joking. I wish I were serious. I wish I had the money to do that, because she'd actually probably enjoy that thing, because it is tiny. If you've had the pleasure of either riding in, driving, or even just seeing an original Roadster, they're tiny. But no, the original Roadster at this point in time is, in fact, the most expensive Tesla there is, because their values have continued to rise. Those cars are appreciating. Those cars are appreciating assets. Of all the Teslas, it's in fact, there is one that is an appreciating asset, and it's the original Roadster. Anyway, the one piece of this that doesn't make sense to me, And it could just be Reuters' framing of it, their interpretation of it, because I will say, and I'll talk about this more in a second, I do believe their reporting. I have a journalism degree. I am a journalist by trade, even though I work in video games. I wouldn't exactly call myself a practicing serious journalist, but I am a trained journalist, and well, they did everything that they should do in a story like this. It wasn't just one source. They sourced this pretty thoroughly. And so the piece that doesn't make sense to me is the bit about the reason being because of Chinese competition. And the reason that doesn't make any sense to me is because there are no Chinese automakers in the United States, which is in North America, which is a massive market. And there probably won't be because, and again, I'm not trying to get political or anything here, but the odds are that if Chinese automakers did attempt to come into this country with EVs, cheap EVs, they would probably be tariffed to high heck because they'd be a serious threat, which Elon Musk himself has said. They'd be a serious threat to American automakers, and the United States government has already shown in the past that it is very willing to protect American automakers because of it's a lot of American industry and a lot of American jobs. So I just don't think Chinese EVs are a reason to do or not do anything in this country in terms of manufacturing. Now, I could end up being completely wrong about that. Maybe China-built Chinese EVs will end up on these shores and they'll come into the market and that'll happen. But I just don't see that happening. But so that's really the only piece of the Reuters report that I personally take issue with as a journalist and as a Tesla fan and as a Tesla podcaster who obsessively tracks this stuff on a weekly basis. So that's my 2 cents there. Let me continue because I've got a lot more to say. My guess is that the cancellation, the reported cancellation of the Gen 3 project, well, I guess I can't say it that way because the robotaxi is on the Gen 3 platform. I'm just going to call it Model 2. And I know it's not the name, and that may aggravate some of you that don't want me to call it that, but I just need a good shorthand here. So my guess is that it's not a coincidence that the reported cancellation of the Model 2 project is happening right as FSD gets the beta tag dropped. We've heard Elon talk up version 12 for months now, and there's been a lot of praise out there for it. In fact, we're going to hear a couple callers on this in the Ride the Lightning hotline in a little while to get some opinions from you guys on it. But with version 12 out and with the beta tag being dropped, my guess here is that Elon sees where he thinks FSD is heading, where it is now and where it's heading. And so he wants to push forward on the robotaxi, which, if you'll recall, is what he wanted to do from the jump. If you remember back to Walter Isaacson's Elon Musk biography, one of the excerpts, I talked about it if you didn't happen to read the biography for yourself, but Franz von Holzhausen and the leadership team at Tesla had to convince Elon to do the Model 2 that has user inputs because Franz and the team argued successfully at the time to Elon saying, look, this is something, if we put a steering wheel and pedals in this thing, this is something we can build and sell at our leisure here, at our whim, and not have to be stuck waiting for a green light from regulatory agencies that are out of our control. I'm paraphrasing here, but you get the point. So Elon never wanted to do the Model 2. He never wanted to do, again, per the biography, Walter Isaacson was in the room. He never wanted to do it. Elon wanted to go right to the robotaxi, And I suspect that now, with FSD version 12.3 getting a lot of good reviews out there, impressing a lot of people, they're dropping the beta tag, I think Elon is now so all in on version 12 and where he sees it going that he is, I guess, if you'll pardon the phrasing here, hitting the accelerator pedal that the robotaxi won't have, but he is hitting the accelerator pedal into the future on this. Now, Elon has been right about a lot of moves that seem crazy at first. We got to give him his due credit on that. Let's start with, say, the Model S as a vehicle. The Model S proved, like, literally everyone wrong. And that's, the literally there isn't even hyperbole. It's not even an exaggeration. There were very few people that believed that a startup Silicon Valley-based electric car company could come in and succeed at all, let alone build the best car in the world. But that's exactly what the Model S was, and continues to be the best car in the world for my money. I don't have one. I don't quite have that money, but that's okay. I'm very happy with my Model 3, which was only made possible by the Model S and the very kind Model S owners who put down their money and bought that car. But anyway, getting back on track here. So the Model S was a big move that seemed crazy to everyone else that Elon was right about. As a more recent example, how about the Cybertruck? Now, yes, it's true that the market has not had time to fully render its verdict on the Cybertruck. We don't know yet what the ultimate annual production volume is going to be, what the demand is going to be once production's fully spun up and the backlog of reservations has been gone through. But the Cybertruck exists, and it is, by most accounts, a great vehicle. Whether you love or hate the design, it does a lot of things amazingly well, and it features a number of engineering advancements that I would dare call engineering marvels. And so the Cybertruck, as we all know, because it's been so recent, is a thing that not just regular citizens thought might never get built. Or actually, a lot of them swore it would never get built. In fact, just for a little micro example of this that's fun, if you go watch the Top Gear video of the Cybertruck from the end of November, right when the truck launched, when it was Top Gear, Marquez Brownlee, and Haggerty, Jason Camisa, they were the first three people to get to put out videos of the Cybertruck. If you go back to the Top Gear video, they took it to, I believe it was Santa Monica or somewhere in Southern California, and they were just getting reactions, like man on the street reactions to the Cybertruck. And there's one guy, and I would love to find this guy and get him on the podcast. There's one guy who, he's standing in front of it with the Top Gear host, and the guy's like, no, that truck's never coming out. Like, he refused to believe it. So, I went down the rabbit hole a little there, but the Cybertruck, many people, both regular citizens and people in the car industry, thought that the Cybertruck would never get built. So you've got to give Elon credit where credit's due on things that he believed in that he turned out to be right about. But this move, if it's true, canceling Model 2 and going straight to robotaxi, it just feels like too big of a leap too soon, in my humble opinion. But then again, Elon would have said, you'd say the same thing about Model S, maybe about Cybertruck. So I acknowledge the duality of what I'm saying here. But it just feels like, right now, it feels like too big of a leap, too soon. We are on the precipice. And by we, I just mean Tesla, because Tesla has brought the world to this point. We are on the precipice of the turning point, where EVs are going to be totally affordable for everyone and totally great. The Model 3 got us a lot closer. The Model Y, even though it's more money than the Model 3 is, the Model Y has arguably had as much or more of an impact on the EV movement because it's an SUV and that's what the market wants. And the Model Y is the number one selling vehicle in the world. But we're so close. If Tesla were to get this Model 2 out for $25K or under $30K, we're so close to them just ending any argument about gas versus electric altogether. And so that's what I'm having trouble squaring. And so I did make this the Patreon poll this week, and I made it a very simple question, and I acknowledge that maybe there was some inadvertent bias loaded into the questions. It's maybe not necessarily as straightforward as a yes or no response, but that being said, the Patreon poll this week asked this: if the $25,000 quote-unquote Model 2 really is canceled, do you agree with that decision? I think this was the most votes that I've ever had in a Patreon poll. It was almost 250 votes. 91% of you voted no. And I wrote a description for yes and for no. So the no choice was no. The path to 20 million cars per year will be much tougher without this car, and the world still needs affordable user-operated cars. And again, that's how I feel. So I'm acknowledging that maybe I loaded some bias into the poll here. 5% of you voted yes, and the descriptor that I had for yes was autonomy can transform global transport and unlock the next level of the company's value. And then another 4% of you said, I'm not sure how I feel just yet, / just show me the results. So thank you to everybody that took the time to vote. A reminder that it is totally free to vote in the Patreon poll each week. I invite everybody to do that. You don't have to be backing me or supporting me on Patreon. Just stop by the Patreon page every week and vote. And you can do that on starting on Tuesday night is usually when I upload each week's poll question. And the website again is patreon.com/Tesla podcast. So, as I said in the poll, I just feel like what happens to the 20 million car per year goal? Because that was such an ambitious goal, but what a noble one, what a great goal. And the reason that Tesla set it at 20 million is because that number specifically was going to represent a substantial dent in the auto industry in terms of number of new cars. 20 million cars sold each year would be a big dent in the overall number of new cars sold globally every year. And that would be Tesla doing its part to just really push electrification forward. And therefore, I might add, the company's mission statement. So that's where I, again, have trouble squaring this a little bit. So, as I'll acknowledge this too. As a Tesla fanboy, I feel that the industry needs Tesla to build this car because it's possible that no other non-Chinese automaker will. I don't know enough about the Chinese auto industry. In fact, I know next to nothing about it, quite frankly, other than what I've learned tangentially from covering Tesla's efforts in China at Giga Shanghai. I don't know if their cheap EVs are any good. I don't know if they're garbage. I don't know if they're somewhere in between. But I know that a $25,000 Tesla would probably be a really good car. Maybe not in performance, of course not in that case. But guess what? In safety, it would be. In driver assistance technology, it would be. In reliability, it would be in terms of, a 1,000,000-mile battery and drivetrain. So I really want Tesla to build this car. Not just because my wife is interested in it, but because I think the world needs Tesla to build this car. So look, I'm not quite done on this. This is a huge topic. There's a lot, and I know it's all potentially speculative. You might be listening to this and going, Ryan, why are you going on and on about this? Because I think, I believe Elon. I think, I think they're lying. And again, I respectfully would disagree there. Again, Reuters, they have the track record, despite Elon refuting it by claiming that they're lying again. Reuters' track record on Tesla reporting is quite good. They broke Project Highland a year ahead of time. They broke Project Juniper, the Model Y refresh, which we're all anticipating either later this year or early next. You heard them, I read you a big chunk of their story. They mentioned their own report on the Generation 3 car that I covered on the podcast at the time. And if you do read the entire Reuters report, although admittedly I've just read most of it to you, I only left out some kind of bigger picture company stuff that all of you already know from listening to this podcast, and I didn't think I needed to take up any more time with it. But again, it's pretty well sourced. So I'm not saying it can't be wrong, but this isn't a one anonymous source clickbait blog post. And not only that, I think it's fair to say that Elon kind of gave credibility to the Reuters report that he just claimed was a lie by that same day. He immediately announced a robotaxi reveal event a full 4 months in advance. Yes, Elon said August 8th, robotaxi unveiling is happening on August 8th. 4 months in advance. Why else would Elon announce it that far ahead of time? Because in my humble opinion, if Elon wanted to truly refute this report, he'd announce the Model 2 reveal, not the robotaxi. Now, and again, there could be a piece of the puzzle that I'm missing here. In fact, I just think I'm so kind of torn on this that I think there probably has to be some other piece of the puzzle that we are missing, either from Elon or from Reuters. Whether it's a battery supply issue or something else, because Tesla just spent their last earnings call, which is now 3 months ago, we're about to have the next one, but their most recent earnings call, they told us repeatedly that they were hard at work on the Generation 3 car because it was going to be the catalyst to their next big growth wave. And that's what makes this Reuters report all the more shocking. And that's why I wouldn't argue with you if you don't believe the Reuters report. Again, I would probably respectfully disagree, just in the sense that I do think that Reuters has done thorough reporting here, but I just think there's something else to this that we're not quite getting. And that's what I'm not sure what that piece is. And what I keep coming back to, and maybe this will prove to be the case, is why can't Tesla do both the Model 2 and the robotaxi? Why is it an either-or thing? I mean, after all, we know from Walter Isaacson's biography that both the Model 2 and the robotaxi are meant to be built on the same platform, and the Model 2 could be sold potentially sooner than the robotaxi because the robotaxi is subject to regulatory approval that is pretty much entirely out of Tesla's control. And so I mentioned battery supply a second ago, and that's the only place that my mind could logically go. That's all I could come up with is, could this be a battery supply issue? And by that I mean, is the mid to long-term global battery supply forecast not looking good enough to support the Generation 3 car and the 3 to 5 million per year production volume that Tesla wants from it? I mean, remember, CATL was just openly talking about the Model 2. I did the story on the podcast, 1 or 2 weeks ago? It was super recently. And CATL, remember, not just anybody, but CATL, aka the biggest battery supplier in the world was just openly talking about this car and a partnership with Tesla to help with the battery supply on it. So, to that end, if I'm right about that, or if I'm not, I wonder if it could end up being that the Model 2 isn't so much canceled, or maybe it is, but maybe just canceled for now, with those resources instead going into the robotaxi, which, as Reuters sources indicated, is moving forward. And maybe the Generation 3 car, the Model 2, if you will, has simply been pushed further down the time horizon, further down the timeline here, because while battery supply maybe needs to catch up. In fact, Reuters' own report talked about the robotaxi not being built in as high of volumes as the Model 2 would be. Maybe it is battery supply. So again, that is the best theory that I have working on this right now. It's the best I can come up with. So perhaps Tesla, I guess we'll acknowledge one other thing here, even though I don't really buy into this, but if Reuters is right about the low-cost Chinese EV competition piece of it, which, as I said, that doesn't make sense to me at all, but perhaps Tesla is ceding the low-cost, low-margin, high-volume market to others and is instead aiming to get to the autonomy finish line first, which again could represent $1 trillion+ pot of gold at the end of the rainbow if Tesla gets there first. If that's the case, I'll still be disappointed. Now, not because I don't think that autonomy is a good use of resources, but because Elon often describes Tesla as a collection of startups. I would have just liked to have seen the robotaxi and the Model 2 both happen, because I believe Tesla, as I said, would make a better, affordable EV than any other automaker will. And like I said, I don't buy the Chinese competition piece of it. So I'm not in on that, and I'm hoping that this is just a delay of Model 2. Now, to finish up, I know this has been a ridiculously long segment. For what it's worth, the aforementioned Tesla design chief, friend of the podcast, Franz von Holzhausen, attended an EV Cars and Coffee event at the Peterson Auto Museum shortly after the Reuters story broke. And during a panel Q&A that he was a part of, someone in attendance, and thank you to this someone, asked Franz about this. Here is what Franz had to say, and I want to say thank you to Zach, who goes by BLKMDL3, probably a license plate, Black Model 3, on X. I've mentioned Zach on the podcast before. He gets little mini scoops from time to time, and thank you to Zach for posting this. Anyway, Zach filmed this exchange between a Tesla fan and Franz and posted it, and here it is.
With the $25,000 car, is it canceled? Is it just deprioritized? Has it been delayed? There was a lot of confusion on Friday, and we saw Elon's tweet in response, but that just created more confusion. I know there's been back and forth on this from the Walter Isaacson book, but
sure.
I think investors and consumers would love to know if the $25,000 car is dead or just on the back burner.
I would just say stay tuned. Don't always believe in what you read.
Well, to follow what Franz just said right there, I can almost guarantee that we're going to hear about this one way or another on the earnings call that's coming up in just 2 episodes from now. So there will be more to this story, and probably soon. Before I continue with the rest of the news, and yes, there is more. There is so much that went on this week. It was just a huge week of Tesla news. Lots of fun stuff to talk about. I mean, like I said, that last story, maybe not fun, but at least interesting to dig into, right? I promise the rest of the beginning of the show was all fun. The rest of the news is all fun. It was just that Model 2 section that was, again, maybe not fun, but just more interesting to discuss. Let's put it that way. But before I get back to the news, let me mention Accelerate Auto and their XCare extended warranty coverage for your Tesla. You might be thinking, well, why do I need that with Tesla offering their own 2-year, 25,000-mile extended warranty? I am glad you asked. For starters, Tesla's policy offers no flexibility. It is exactly what I just said. 2 years, 25,000 extra miles, that's it. And you have to buy it before your factory warranty is up. XCare, on the other hand, covers everything that Tesla does, plus more, and the more is trip interruption coverage and rental reimbursement. So those two things Tesla does not offer as part of their plan. And XCare can be configured how you like it. So you can go up to 10 more years, up to 125,000 more miles after your factory warranty is up. XCare can also be purchased for any Tesla, no matter where you bought it. If you bought it used, you got it from a family member, it doesn't, with Tesla, you have to have been the original owner to buy the extended warranty plan. That is not the case with XCare. So check them out. There's a $100 discount code that I've got for you. Thank you to the Accelerate Auto team for offering that. So if you do want to purchase a policy, use the discount code LIGHTNING for $100 off your purchase. The website to go to is accelerateauto.com/xcare, but it's spelled a little funky, so it's XCELERATEAUTO.com/XCARE. Discount code LIGHTNING, get your $100 off your policy purchase. Okay, back to the rest of the news. Yes, there is more. Good news for those of you outside of North America who have been considering a Model Y. You now have another option, and one that, in my humble opinion, looks mighty attractive. So, via Tesla's own X account, they posted, introducing Model Y long-range rear-wheel drive. Maximum range that allows you to commute all week without charging at an even more accessible price. Specs below: 600 kilometers of range in the WLTP cycle, which, just to translate it for my fellow Americans, it's about 300 miles on the EPA cycle, when equipped with the 19-inch Gemini wheels. Top speed of 217 kilometers per hour, that's 135 miles per hour. Lowest cost per kilometer in the electric SUV market, 14.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Available in Austria, Czechia, Denmark, Finland, Germany, Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Spain, Portugal, Norway, Sweden, Iceland, Italy, Greece, Poland, Slovenia, Romania, and Hungary. So for a little context here, it's 4,000 euros more than the standard range Model Y for what should be about 40 extra miles of range. But it's also, well, on the EPA cycle, but it's also 5,000 euros less than the long-range dual motor for almost identical range. The official WLTP range estimate is that this single motor long-range Model Y gets more range than the dual motor. It's saying 600 kilometers versus 533 kilometers in the dual motor. The big sacrifice, aside from, I guess, some extra grip with the all-wheel drive, is 0 to 60 performance. It's about a full second slower, 0 to, 100 kilometers, so 0 to 62 miles per hour in 6 seconds instead of 5 on the dual motor. I would strongly consider this if I were in Europe shopping for a Y. I really would. I mean, this is... I wouldn't be using a Y personally for performance driving the way that I do in my Model 3, but that's just me. There are lots of performance Model Y owners out there that love throwing the car around. But for me, if I were getting a Y and I had this choice available to me, I think I might take it. I mean, you're talking 5,000 euros less than the dual motor for about the same range. In fact, you could always spend that savings, my European friends. You could treat yourself a little bit to either Quicksilver paint or Midnight Cherry Red paint. each of which costs 2,600 euros as an option. So you'd still be coming out ahead and still have the same amount of range, maybe even a hair more. So I love to see Tesla giving consumers more choices here. Fingers crossed that we get this same new option in North America soon. All right, I've got one more bit of good news to end on this week before I do a couple of the phone calls queued up in the Ride the Lightning hotline. The Sport bucket seats are now available for the Plaid Model S and Plaid Model X, and they simply come standard. No price adjustment to the car. This is just one of those good old-fashioned Tesla-style upgrades where the car just gets better for the same price. You can get a look at them for yourself right now on the Tesla Design Studio. Just make sure that whether you choose S or X that you click on Plaid. Otherwise, the long range, you won't see the seats, the new seats. And in my humble opinion, they look fantastic, particularly in white. We know I'm partial to the white seats. And part of the reason that I think these specifically look extra awesome in white, it's not just because I prefer the white interior, but the all three seats, white seat, black seat, cream seat, has a black suede material on the bolsters. And that's the bolsters both at the thighs and up your back. So it's the bolsters running up and down the entire seat. And that suede bolster is black no matter which of the three seat colors that you order. So if you get the white interior, that black really contrasts nicely with the white seat. If you get a black interior, well, you won't really be able to see it so much, but you will feel the grip of that suede bolster. And if you go with cream, well, hey, that's a nice look too. You get a little of that light on or dark on light contrast on the seat for that one as well. I'm just not personally a big fan of the cream color on the interior. But again, it's all interior color choices, exterior paint color choices. They're all subjective. My least favorite might be your favorite, and your favorite might be my least favorite. But I will read you now the description of these new Sport bucket seats straight from Tesla's X account. They say, new Model S Plaid Sport seats. If you know what high G cornering means, these seats are for you. They offer increased lateral support, modular seat architecture for comfort and support, plus the same 12-way power adjusting, plus heating and ventilation. High performance suede for increased grip and reduced weight. So aside from the suede bolsters, which as I mentioned are on both the upper and lower parts of the seat, the front seats also have a Plaid logo in the center of the seat, right at the shoulders or so, which I think is a really nice extra touch. And what Tesla didn't even bother to mention that I took notice of in the video and picture that they posted on X is that the rear seat, the rear bench seat, has the black suede bolstering too. Although presumably the shape of the rear seats is otherwise unchanged, unlike the fronts, which are completely new seats. But I think that's a really nice touch, is to have the suede bolsters on the back seats as well. That's super cool. And just speaking personally, I think these seats look fantastic. And while I'm sure that some of you track-focused Plaid owners might be a little bit disappointed that these didn't cut out the creature comforts in the name of weight reduction, and by the way, if you feel that way, that is a totally valid reaction because every bit of weight savings counts. If you're doing some high-spirited performance track driving, I totally get it. But I just love these seats, and I can't wait I hope I get the opportunity to try them out sometime. Maybe even if I'm not driving in them, just to sit in them. I hope I get a chance to sit in them at some point. Now, the timing of this is probably very intentional. These had to come out now so that when the Model 3 Ludicrous gets formally announced, I guess, by the way, that embargo that I mentioned last week when I recorded very early ahead of my family trip, that embargo clearly hasn't lifted yet, after all, but I'm guessing that it will lift this week ahead of the earnings call next week. So anyway, the reason that these new Plaid seats had to come out now is because we couldn't have the Ludicrous 3 coming out with its seats and being seen as having better seats than the Plaid. Because as we know, the Ludicrous 3 is getting these, sport bucket style seats as well. They're probably not 12-way power adjusting. They're probably 8, like the regular Model 3 seats. And they're probably, we've actually seen the pictures. They don't have the suede bolsters either. So they're still going to be nice, but not quite as nice as these awesome new Plaid seats. And I imagine a number of you Plaid owners out there are currently wondering, can I get these in my car? And hopefully the answer to that is going to be yes, provided, of course, that you pay for them. And I have no idea what these are going to cost, but I expect they won't be cheap. But considering that they're being installed in the same Plaid S and X that Tesla's been building for a while, and it has all the same functionality as the previous seats, which, as a reminder, are still going in to the long-range versions of the car, I have to think that from a purely technical perspective, an upgrade to these seats should be possible. It's just a question of whether or not Tesla will make them available to existing Plaid owners for a service center installation, and if they do, what the price on them will be. But these are, in my humble opinion, hot. These are gorgeous seats. In fact, when I saw them, they reminded me of the next-gen Roadster prototype from 2017. That car had a similar kind of wraparound bucket seat, and it had white suede bolsters and I think just the thighs. I don't think it had it in the back of that prototype. So these new Plaid S seats are essentially the closest that Tesla has come to shipping those next-gen Roadster seats, although I do expect the final Roadster seats in the new car will be similar, but probably even more body-hugging, given what that car is going to be capable above and beyond the Plaid. All right, that is everything in what as you could tell, was an extremely busy news week. I'm going to do a few of your phone calls up next in the Ride the Lightning hotline, so stay tuned for that right after this.
Hi, this is Franz von Holzhausen, and you're listening to Ride the Lightning with Ryan McCaffrey, the Tesla unofficial podcast.
Time for the Ride the Lightning hotline, your chance to call in and possibly be featured here on the podcast. I welcome and invite you to call in with your Tesla questions, comments, or discussion topics. There are two easy ways to do that. Either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record your question, please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less, and send it my way via email, and my Tesla Podcast email that you can send that to is teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can take your same 90-second or less question and just call in and leave a message anytime on the Ride the Lightning hotline. That toll-free number is 1-888-989-8752. Again, that's 1-888-989-TSLA. And if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. First up, so basically I've got 3 calls is what I'm going to make time for here. It's all FSD feedback. So you'll hear. Let's start with Steve from New Jersey.
Hi, Ryan. Steve from New Jersey with a few comments on the new FSD trial I received. First of all, it drives like a new driver with a learner's permit. It seems to take way too long at intersections to make turns. You would think it could think a lot faster and be much safer, but it really is slow. It accelerates too fast for passengers. It's fine when I'm by myself, but I know passengers would complain. It also follows too closely around town. For my comfort, I prefer to leave a little bit more cushion rather than tailgate. And worst of all, it's using the manual brakes. I can feel when I put my foot under the pedal and I can feel it pressing the brake all the time to slow down. I like to play the regen game, and I hardly ever use my brakes, so I don't understand why it can't do the same thing. Autopilot on the highway, it would be the best solution. I can't imagine paying anything for what this does. It just seems to be more of an annoyance than anything else. Well, thanks for everything you do, and thanks for your time.
Thank you for calling in with your impressions, Steve. This is what I wanted to hear, the good and the bad. I'd say the biggest thing that I'm totally with you on, not that I disagree with any of your other assessments, but the big thing that I'm super with you on is the braking thing. I, too, like playing the regen braking game to see how little I actually need to activate the friction brakes. Teslas have, to date, had brakes that you'd almost literally never have to replace. If you use FSD all the time, it's looking like that might no longer be the case. So I would love to see Tesla eventually add a toggle to FSD that would have it use the friction brakes as little as possible and instead rely on the regen braking as much as possible. You could just say, it could just be, I don't know, there just could be a checkbox that says something like, use more regen braking. Something silly like that. That's worded better than what I just said. But anyway, thank you, Steve. For some more FSD commentary on version 12.3, here's Robert from Texas.
Hey, Ryan, it's Robert from Texas. You asked for comments on FSD beta 12.3.3 supervised. And I have to say, I have been really pleasantly surprised. I was quite not expecting much because I've had some of these different, 11 and 12 updates that were supposed to change the world, and they didn't. But this one, I would say, actually is the first one that, for me, actually works. And I'm finding myself using FSD beta supervised more on city streets. I was already using it pretty much 98% of the time on the highway, to be honest. But I'm finding myself using it more on city streets, and it's working pretty well. No, it's not perfect, but I think now with the video AI training and everything else, this is definitely, as it gets better from here, this is definitely something that's ready for prime time. And it's starting to do things that really surprise me, like behind someone on a left turn, going around them into the right lane so that you can continue traveling, things that humans do that I haven't seen the FSD do before. So pretty amazing. I think it's a great, where it is now, it works. And I think more and more people are going to get it. I do agree the price is high, but let's see where that goes. But definitely taking a lot more of the city street driving on FSD now versus just doing it all myself. Also, thanks for the tip on the steering wheel, the yoke. I put in my service to replace that. The new one even looks better with the stitching and everything. So I'll let you know if they don't replace that for free. So love the podcast. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye.
I'm glad to hear that it's won you over, Robert. I, too, have been trusting it a bit more on city streets lately, letting it do the entire drive sometimes, if it behaves. And hopefully by the time you hear this, you've received your new and improved steering yoke as well. But yeah, it has definitely gotten smoother. It has definitely gotten better in places that it's not been as good at. I have personally seen a couple of regressions in repeatable situations that have been a little head scratching, but hopefully the machine learning, the fleet learning, will help iron those out. One more call this week. It's from Keith in St. Charles, Missouri.
Hi, Ryan. This is Keith from St. Charles, Missouri. I had a thought. I would like to use FSD to get to work in the morning, but the route that it takes me on is a route that I don't prefer. When I get to my complex of buildings, it runs me through a lot of parking lots and that sort of thing, and there's a much simpler route. And I was wondering if Tesla could do something that I guess I would call a self-designated navigation route. if you could just hit a button when you're leaving home, drive a specific route that you want to take that is different than what FSD would do, get to your location, hit stop, and add to navigation. I just think that would be a pretty cool addition that maybe a lot of other people would appreciate also. So love the show. Thank you.
I could not agree with you more. I too have run into this. Honestly, we probably all have. And it's not necessarily Tesla's fault or even Google's fault here, since of course the maps in our cars are Google Maps. It's just real life versus how AI reads it. We do already get multiple route choices, of course, at the beginning of our journey, which is always nice. We've had that for a little while now. So I'd love to see the same thing with FSD, perhaps even with a custom option that lets you, quote, record the route you take to one of your favorite tagged destinations, somewhere that you drive a lot that's saved in your favorites. And then the car will follow that route the next time you select it on FSD. So hopefully FSD evolves to include something like that. Thank you so much for your call. I also want to quickly shout out Doug from Fort Worth, Texas, who also called in with this same idea, also after checking out the FSD trial. Thanks to everybody that took the time to call in. I will get to more of your phone calls next week. But for now, stay tuned. Believe it or not, Ride the Lightning is still not quite done yet. There's a little bit more podcast for you right after this.
This is Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief, Sierra 117. You're listening to Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast. You know, that Cybertruck looks a lot like a warthog, doesn't it? Master Chief, out.
I've been enjoying the last couple days of my vacation here after we got back from our trip, before I've got to go back to work on Monday. And on my to-do list is washing my car. I left it filthy because I was like, well, I didn't want to come back to a car that's just covered in dust. And I think that was probably a wise decision, because tomorrow, as I'm recording this, there's rain forecast for most of the day. So I'll aim to wash it on Sunday, and then hopefully it'll look nice and clean again for spring. Anyway, how about an entertainment recommendation? Cool new show that I've started watching. It's a video game-based show. Maybe you've seen The Last of Us. That's on HBO. The Last of Us is definitely the gold standard. But I have to say, this show, very good so far. All 8 episodes have been posted. You can binge it to your heart's content. As of this recording, I've watched the first 2, and the show is Fallout. It's on Prime Video. It is definitely not family-friendly, just as a heads up on that. But I think I'd be curious to hear from some of you, if you decide to watch it and you aren't familiar with the game, if you think it's a good show or not. Because I'm, of course, coming at it with all of my Fallout video game knowledge, and there's definitely a lot of great little touches, little nods to the games. But I'm enjoying the show so far. 2 episodes in, they're hour-long episodes. I'm liking the characters. They clearly put money into it. It looks good on the screen. It's a post-nuclear apocalypse show, which I know it's not the most original concept, but I've really been enjoying it through these first 2 episodes, and I'm going to continue watching the rest of the season. So check that out if you need a good new adult, not kid-friendly sci-fi show to check out. Pro tip of the week time. Here's Brian from Union, Kentucky, responding to a recent pro tip from Damon about headlight settings.
Hi, this is Brian from Union, Kentucky, calling in regards to Damon's pro tip last week about headlight settings and quickly turning them off. I think there's actually a third way that might be a little easier when you're looking at your screen on the left side with your headlights on. If you tap on any of those icons, it pulls up in the bottom left card area your light settings, and you can just quickly tap off or auto or whatever setting you want. So wanted to share that as a third option for Damon and others, and might even be the easiest one. So thanks for everything you do. Have a good one.
I love this one, Brian. Thank you very much. You know, it's so great that we all help each other out and build up our collective Tesla knowledge base. It's just, I love this part of the podcast. The pro tip of the week is always just I look forward to it. It's a little highlight for me. Hopefully it is for you too. If anybody else out there has a good pro tip of the week that you'd like to share with me and your fellow Tesla owners and enthusiasts, you can send it in the same way that you send in the regular Ride the Lightning hotline calls. I told you about the 2 easy ways to do that a little earlier in the podcast. Before I step out of here, though, I want to mention some friends of Ride the Lightning that my hope is they'll be of use to you at some point sooner or later. Most of these offer discounts because you're a very kind and supportive Ride the Lightning listener, and I'm grateful to these vendors for continuing to do that. So I will start with abstractocean.com. Check in with them from time to time. If you've been there but haven't been there in a while, just take a look. Click on whichever Tesla you own. They also have Rivian accessories as well now. But click on whichever Tesla you own. See what they've got. Maybe it's the rear footwell lighting kit. Maybe it's the tempered glass screen protectors that are custom fit for the Teslas that use the same aluminosilicate glass that Corning uses in Gorilla Glass. They've got all kinds of great products for all the different Teslas over there. Check them out, abstractocean.com, and pile everything that you like into your online shopping cart. And then when you get to checkout, use the coupon code RTLPodcast to get 15% off of your first order. That coupon code again is RTLPodcast, all one word, no spaces. Get a discount on the Snap Plate and the new Snap Plate Plus by using the coupon code RTL at the website everyamp.com/RTL. The Everyamp folks are very kind to offer that discount to you. And if you haven't paid attention lately to this part of the show, I'll remind you that the Snap Plate and the new Snap Plate Plus are the front license plate brackets that snap on and off your Tesla in seconds, but when they're on, they are on there very securely. They're not going to mess with your autopilot, your radiator intake, your paint, any of that stuff. It's just a really nice, clean, minimal design. You can take it off if you're going to be at a car show, like a Cars and Coffee or something, or if you're detailing your car. You can put it back on if you're going to be parked at a parking meter or going through a toll road or a bridge or something. I just definitely recommend it. The Snap Plate is safety optimized with breakaway features to sacrifice itself in a worst case scenario, like a parking accident or a car wash. On the other hand, the Snap Plate Plus is strength optimized with hardened features for maximum strength. Both have that signature minimalist aesthetic that blends in so perfectly with the Tesla front ends, and both are made from recycled, made in the USA plastics with stainless steel reinforcements. So again, get yours at everyamp.com/RTL and use the coupon code RTL. BudgetSafeSolar.com. Check them out if you're considering a solar installation for your home or business or both. Keep them on your list. Give them a call, drop them a line, see what they've got to say. Get a quote from them and see if it works out for you. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But if you're looking into solar, odds are you're going to be looking into several companies, not just one. All I ask is, based on my own positive experience with them, that you consider BudgetSafeSolar.com. Keep them on your short list. And remember, too, that they now offer home battery storage as part of their solar installations. And yes, that includes the Tesla Powerwall. So go to BudgetSafeSolar.com. If you do end up proceeding with a solar installation on your home or business, don't forget to use the referral code RTL. Immaculate Reflections. If you're going to be in the greater San Francisco Bay Area with your Tesla or another car that you care about, and you'd like to get some detail work done by a professional, I cannot recommend Immaculate Reflections enough. Go to their website at irdetailing.com. That's how you get in touch. Whether you are looking for paint correction to get your paint finish looking as good as it possibly can, whether you're looking for paint protection film on some or all of the car, whether you're looking for ceramic coating so that you don't have to wax the car for the next 5-ish years. Maybe you want to do 2 of those. Maybe you want to do all of those. Maybe you want to do one of them. Whatever the case may be, I guarantee you will walk away happy. When you see your car, when it's done, you are going to be very happy, just as I was. So again, head on over to irdetailing.com, get in touch with them, and mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener and that you'd like the Ride the Lightning listener discount, and whatever services you book in, you will be kindly extended that Ride the Lightning listener discount. Finally, the Patreon. I mentioned it a little earlier in the podcast, but I'll mention it here one more time. This podcast, as you have all seen by now, it is free, has always been free, and will always be free, and I'm happy to do it for you each and every week. But it really does continue based on the kindness and generosity and support of all of you who are so kind to listen to this podcast. So if you see it in your heart at some point, sooner or later, check it out at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. That's the Patreon website to go to. That's where you'll find all the information on how you can support me, whether you want to do the $5 a month tier, which will get you as a thank you. You'll get early access to each week's episode. Maybe you want to do that super popular $10 per month tier, where you'll get not only the early access to each week's episode, but you'll also get access to all of those 91 and counting lightning round mini episodes that I put up on Patreon each week. There's also an option on there to do an annual pledge. If you'd prefer not to do a monthly pledge, but you do want to say thank you and support me, you can do that as a once a year thing. And if you do that, you'll get a 10% discount for doing so. There's also a 7-day free trial that Patreon enabled not too long ago. So you can just go sign up for the 7-day free trial, which is going to be specifically for that $10 per month tier that has the mini episodes each week. So check it out again, patreon.com/Tesla podcast. I would be humbled and grateful if you would consider support. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe soon. Finally, if you're not already following this podcast on your podcast service of choice, I humbly ask that you do that only because it makes it easier for you to get each week's episode. It means the new episode will be pushed out to you every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, instead of you having to remember to go find it. So you can follow me on Apple Podcasts, on whatever is left of Google Podcasts, if there even is anything. I don't know. I think they're shutting it down and doing something else. I'm not even sure. Statistically, the overwhelming majority of you get it on Apple Podcasts, but I am also on Spotify. There's a healthy chunk of people there. And then I'm on YouTube Podcasts as well. On any of these, to find me, just search Ride the Lightning Tesla. You could even throw podcast in if you wanted to. And that's how you'll find it. And you can just click follow, which is totally free to do. Finally, don't forget my referral code if you need one and don't already have a friend, family member, or coworker whose code you can use. But if you just are buying a Tesla and want to get the referral perk, which at this point is the 3 free months of FSD, presumably on top of the 1 month free trial that everybody gets, just type this into your web browser. I tried to say web and browser at the same time, and it came out as Wowzer. Wowzer. Type it into your Wowzer. Let's go with that, because I think it sounds better than web browser. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm getting delirious here after an hour and a half plus of doing the podcast. Anyway, if you want to use my referral link, type in ts.la/Ryan73014. Hit enter, pick which Tesla you want, configure it, order it, and when you take delivery, you'll get the 3 free months of FSD on your car. You can follow me on social media, on 2 of them anyway. I'm on X and I'm on Instagram with the same username on both, and that username is DMC_Ryan. X is mostly video game stuff, and Instagram is 95% Tesla stuff with the occasional dog picture or other just personal interest thing on there. But follow me on either of those if you're interested. You can email me anytime, teslapodcast@gmail.com. And as my voice is running out of steam, I can feel it. I don't know if you can hear it. I'm going to say hello and thank you to the top tier Patreon backers who I'm so grateful to for their very generous support. I'll start with the Maximum Plaid group. Yes, so tomorrow as I'm recording is our monthly Zoom hangout for the upper tier Patreon backers. I do also extend a one-time invite to the monthly Patreon Zoom hangout to anyone who makes a new pledge of any kind or upgrades their pledge from what it already was. That's just my way of saying thank you, and you can come join us for the conversation if you like. We always have a great time at these every single month, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's because I'm hoping that at least one or two folks on the call will have taken delivery of their Cybertruck. I also want to talk to the group about this Reuters, Model 2 cancellation story. I think that's going to be a big topic with the group too. So anyway, I always have fun at those. I invite all of you to join us if you want to jump in at that Maximum Plaid tier. That's the tier to do in order to get access to every one of those monthly Patreon Zoom hangouts. So my thanks to the Maximum Plaid backers, who are Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Brett Libano, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Michael Williams, Will Stedman, Derek Nesselrote, Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Richard Corley, Chris Osborne, KB, Doug Carey, James Gregory, Adam Lavoie, ContactOneCallCenter.com, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, Matt Kalin, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Sean Tisdale, Dustin Hart, Michael Gallo, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, and Rav. Next up, the Roadster in Space tier backers. Huge thanks to them. They are Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Carol Weston, Robert from near Philly, Kristen Rumble, American Home Contractors, and GetAmber.com. Finally, the grandfathered in Plaid level supporters. Huge thanks to these folks for continuing to pledge at the Plaid level, and so they get all the perks and bonuses that level deserves. Thanks to George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, David Perella, Dennis Peak, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, David J. Howes, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, Not Elon Musk, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado. Huge thanks to everybody backing me on the Patreon at all levels. Your support is supremely appreciated. I really, really do thank you for it. I know it is earned. It is not given. And I do my best to earn it for you every single week. Because I know the second I take my foot off the accelerator and start phoning this thing in, it'll be very obvious. I mean, hopefully you don't already think that. Because I really do put my heart and soul into this thing every week. I hope that comes across. But I know that I have to continue to hold on to continue to earn that trust and continue to earn your attention, quite frankly. I mean, this was one of the longest episodes of Ride the Lightning in a while. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for taking the time. There was so much to talk about. I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and you've probably got opinions on the stories this week between the Model 2 thing and all the other much happier stories. There was a lot of neat stuff to talk about this week. So hit me with your phone calls, your emails. And for those of you at the upper tiers of the Patreon, I look forward to speaking with a bunch of you on our monthly Patreon Zoom hangout tomorrow. But for now, That is the end of the palindromatic Ride the Lightning episode 454. For a snoozing Daisy the Boxer, I'm Ryan McCaffrey, and I'll see you next week.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.